right, and here is that bucket of water, and I'm gonna go ahead and dump this just so you can get an idea of just how much this is. I mean, this is many gallons, multi-gallons of water. And you can see this is a lot of water that this thing is pulling out of the air. That is pretty cool. Hey, what's going on, guys? Jimmy, the general expert here on YouTube. And today we're gonna be looking at this Midea, I think is how you say it, the CUBE Smart Dehumidifier. Just picked this thing up at Home Depot. Actually, they only had 2 left on the shelf. Apparently they are seasonal. But this thing seemed to get some pretty good reviews versus the only other 50-pint dehumidifier they had, which was by GE. And the very first reviews on that GE unit were all 1 stars, saying that it quit working after a couple days or even a month. So this one had great reviews. The most negative comment I heard was that it produces some heat, so I guess we'll be testing that out. But I have some paint work going on here, and it is getting a little humid inside this home. So I figured I'd pick up a dehumidifier, and this thing is supposed to do a very, very good job. So we're gonna unbox this, see what it looks like, and how to turn it on, see what it sounds like. All right, so let's open this box up and see what we get right on the top here. Looks like we have some drainage tubing, and this whole thing's gonna be strapped together, so maybe I can get this out with one hand. Okay, so this is what it looks like right outside the box. This whole unit is strapped together here. Drain tube. Looks like we have a quick start guide. After removing that styrofoam, you can see the main control center here. Also the fan here at the top. So picking up this unit, it is pretty heavy. This thing is definitely solidly built. I'd want to say it's probably, I don't know, 30 pounds, maybe even 40. And the way it's designed is to sit on top of this bucket. You can nest it inside this bucket, but the standard operation is to have it sit on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and place this thing right here on top. And there are 2 ways to know you have this thing sitting on the bucket, and that is with all these controls, they have to be on the same side as this window down here on the bucket. And the other way is to make sure that these 2 arrows align. You can see on the back here, there is a few different ways to pump the water out. A couple different options. They do include, with this unit anyway, some hose, and I think that this unit is equipped with an actual pump that will pump the water through that hose to wherever you want. I'm gonna set this up just with using the passive bucket. And I'll go ahead and plug it in. I'll go ahead and hit power. And it just turned on. I can hear the fan. It's not like it's quiet, but it's also not terrible either. From the looks of it, the fan is in high mode. I just heard the compressor kick on. The air coming out of it right now is pretty much room temperature air. I just stepped out and read through the instruction manual a little bit just to get a better idea of exactly how this thing works. I believe out of the box, the unit automatically goes into this continuous mode where it continuously runs. I think what I'm seeing here is the humidity level that this unit is reading, which says 65%. You can see that it is high. And to verify that, looking at my thermostat here, which also reads the humidity, we can see it says 61. So we're somewhere in that range. What I want to do is put this into set mode, and that allows me to set an actual humidity level that I want it to achieve, and it'll turn off once it achieves that humidity level and turn back on if it goes up. So I think I'm just going to hit the mode button probably twice here. Yep, once goes to max, and the next goes to the set mode. Then I'm going to use these arrows, and you can see once I hit these arrows, we can go from 35 to 40 to 45. I'm gonna put it down on about 40%. So we will come back later on in the day and check if this thing is doing its job. I can tell you that the air coming out of the top here is a bit warm. I think that's to be expected. And another thing to note is, although I did set the humidity level to 40%, this reading here is telling me exactly what the humidity level is inside the home currently. So we are all set up. The Cube is sitting on top of its bucket properly. We are plugged in. We are spaced away from the wall. There's nothing above this thing to get in the way. The cord is tucked neatly into its place. All right, at this point, it's been about 4 hours, and we are down to 55% humidity here in the room. And taking a look here down at the water level, you can see just where that water is. That water level is rising. So you can see We are just off of the floor here, a couple inches up, let's say. The air coming out of the top here is warm. I wouldn't say it's hot, but it's definitely warm, and I can see this warmer air heating up a smaller room fairly quickly. Looking at my thermostat here, we can see that we are at about 57% humidity, 79 degrees in the house. I did just kick on that air conditioner, cooling it down to about 76, just so we can try to give the humidity levels in here a jump start to get down, but it is going pretty well. I think earlier we were at 65 or 66 or something, and now we're down to 57. So that's down about 10%. What's it been, 3 hours, 4 hours? I can't remember. Here we are several hours later, and you can see we are still roughly about 53% on the humidity. And if we check the thermostat again, it says 51. So that's right about in that same range. Maybe it's, let's take an average and say it's 52%. I think that the humidity level is staying kind of high just because there is so much water or humidity in this house right now with all the paintwork and everything going on. So it's probably gonna be a while. I'm gonna leave this running overnight, but I just wanted to show you that this thing is indeed pulling water. You can see how much water there is now. I mean, that is a good, I don't know, 4 inches worth of water, you can see. So there's lots of water in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and empty it out just so it can run all night and not get full. As for heat coming out of this thing, yeah, it's warm, but I wouldn't say it's like hot air or anything. It's not cold. It's just kind of like a lukewarm feeling of air, so not terrible. Okay, it's all empty, so we're gonna leave it overnight, and we will see how much water this thing fills up overnight. So again, this is set on set point mode, where I get to set the humidity level. And if we double check, we have it set at 40%. I'm not sure it's gonna be able to achieve that, but it should get below 50 for sure. Here we are in the morning. It's about, what is it? 8 o'clock in the morning. 51% humidity, and on the thermostat we're reading 48. So let's just go ahead and call it about 50. And if we look here, you can see this thing is working, and it's working great. This is a large house, and so that's why, you know, I'm assuming the humidity levels still remain about 50%. I thought it would dip into the 40s, which it kind of is according to the thermostat, but you can see this thing is definitely pulling a lot of water out of the air. I mean, that is gallons of water right there. Same, just like lukewarm air coming out of this thing. And you can see we do have the water level being red in the bucket there. So this machine knows how much water is in that bucket according to the float. Yeah, we're down to about 50%, maybe 49%. There's a bit of a discrepancy here between this thermostat. You can see the thermostat says 48%, and we're reading about 50 here. So let's call it 49 as an average. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump this thing, and I'm gonna start by first turning the power off. I've pulled the cube out of the bucket, and before I set it on the ground, I'm gonna try to tip it a little bit. I'm trying to do this one-handed here. Just to get some water. You can see that water there to kind of pour out. If I can get a lot of this water to pour out before I set this unit on the ground, then that just means we're not gonna have any water spill on the ground while it's outside of the bucket. All right, and here is that bucket of water, and I'm gonna go ahead and dump this just so you can get an idea of just how much this is. I mean, this is many gallons, multi-gallons of water. And you can see this is a lot of water that this thing is pulling out of the air. Wow. That is pretty cool. Well, I have the painters here, so I had to unplug this thing and bring it out here into the shop. Although I've only used this thing for about 24 hours, it seemed to do an excellent job, a fantastic job. Pulled tons of water out of the air. I know that number didn't get down too low, but it is a very large house, and this was in the bottom floor. It's about a 2,500 square foot house, a little bit more than that. This was downstairs, kind of in the middle of the kitchen, living room area. So the amount of water it pulled, which was probably a total of, I mean, close to what, maybe 5 gallons, even more, between last night and this morning. That is a ton of water to pull out of the air. So I'm very impressed by that. It didn't seem like it was running too hot. seemed to be working, you know, perfectly fine. Had no malfunctions with it. Right now you can see it's nested inside the bucket there, so it's pretty cool. If you want to store it, it's not going to be this gigantic thing. It gets nested inside itself, so it definitely breaks itself down to about half the size. And my only concern with it, the only con I would say, is it's a bit heavy. So for the average user, this is going to be a little bit heavy to just carry around, being that there are no wheels or anything like that. Other than that, so far, so good. I guess only time will really tell. And, you know, I do pay attention to the reviews that I can see on Home Depot and other places. And, you know, there's always going to be some negative reviews, no matter what product you're looking at, what brand. But for the most part, this one seemed to be mostly positive. And I'm pretty impressed right now. But again, only time will tell. So thank you guys for watching The General Expert here on YouTube. I hope you got something out of this. Maybe you're considering purchasing one of these Midea CUBE dehumidifiers. If you are, please don't forget to check down in the description below for links to this exact product as well as others. Thanks guys, General Expert out.